Have you ever walked away from an argument feeling like you should have won, but deep down, you didn't? You brought logic, facts, and passion, but instead of victory, you ended up in frustration. Here's the twist. The people who truly win arguments, most of them never argue at all. In the next few minutes, I'll show you how the sharpest minds win without fighting. This is not about manipulation. It's about understanding the hidden psychology that makes people listen, change, and respect you, even when they disagree. Let's start here. Wanting to argue is natural. It's hardwired into us. When someone challenges what we believe, especially when it feels personal, our brain treats it like a threat, not a conversation. A threat. Emotions flood in before logic ever gets a chance. We're not trying to understand the other person. We're trying to protect our identity. Our beliefs become part of us, and when those beliefs are questioned, it feels like we're being attacked. So what do? We push back, not to learn, but to defend. But here's the kicker. Arguing doesn't change minds. It reinforces walls. Arguing is less about facts and more about protecting your sense of self. Let's be brutally honest. When was the last time someone said, "Wow, you're totally right. I take back everything I said," after a heated argument? That doesn't happen. Even when you have all the logic on your side, the other person rarely changes. But why? Because when people feel attacked, even with facts, they double down. They build defense systems, not around their argument, but around their ego. So what feels like a win to you feels like a personal defeat to them. And guess what? They'll never admit defeat. They'll just resent you quietly. That is why the person who tries to win an argument with brute logic ends up losing connection, trust, and credibility. Real winning doesn't look like conquest. It looks like understanding. Now, think about the last time someone truly made you reconsider your opinion. It probably wasn't because they shouted louder. It was probably because they made you feel heard, respected, and safe to reflect. The people who win are the ones who understand that emotion drives reason, not the other way around. Let's go deeper for a moment into the psychology of arguing. When someone disagrees with us, our brain interprets it using the amygdala, the emotional center responsible for fear and threat detection. This creates what psychologists call an amygdala hijack, where your logical brain temporarily goes offline. That's why people raise their voice, why they interrupt, why they say things they regret. They're not reasoning, they're reacting. In fact, studies show that during an argument, your body releases adrenaline and cortisol, the same chemicals triggered during physical danger. Your heart rate goes up. You stop listening clearly. Your body is preparing for battle, not conversation. This is why arguing rarely feels good, even when we think we're right. It's exhausting because your nervous system is in fight or flight mode, and the longer it lasts, the more emotionally flooded both sides become. Here's another interesting piece of psychology: the backfire effect. This is when presenting evidence against someone's deeply held belief does not change their mind. It strengthens their belief even more. Why? Because the mind is not just trying to process truth. It is trying to protect identity. People do not want to be wrong, because being wrong feels like being unworthy. So instead of updating their belief, they dig in deeper to avoid the discomfort of cognitive dissonance. Understanding this helps you stop expecting logic to solve emotional problems. You begin to see that influence is not about pressure. It is about safety. They pause before they pounce. Rather than reacting impulsively, they create a gap between what is said and how they respond. In that space, they decide, is this really worth it? What is the outcome I want? That 1 second pause, that moment of reflection, is the difference between power and powerlessness. They lead with questions, not attacks. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," they ask, "How did you come to feel that way?" Or "What makes this important to you?" When you invite someone to explain, they stop preparing their defense and start engaging in reflection. They meet people emotionally before intellectually. Instead of throwing facts immediately, they validate how the other person feels. "I get why you'd feel strongly about that. This disarms tension and builds safety. Here is a simple truth. People are far more likely to listen to you when they feel like you are on their side, not above them, not against them, but beside them. The most powerful people don't win by arguing harder. They win by connecting deeper." Let me tell you about something I once saw in a leadership workshop. There were two participants debating a workplace conflict. One of them interrupted constantly, corrected the other person, brought up facts, policies, case studies. The other listened carefully, paused, and said, "I can tell this issue really matters to you. Can I ask what makes it personal?" The entire energy in the room shifted. Walls dropped, and what started as a debate turned into a conversation. That second person, they didn't win the debate. They won the room. This is what behavioral psychology teaches us. People change their minds, not when they feel pushed, but when they feel seen. If someone feels cornered or judged, they don't open up, they dig in. But when they feel emotionally safe, the brain lowers its defenses and starts to consider alternatives. Influence, then, isn't about force, it's about alignment. Making the other person feel like you're on their side, not across the battlefield. And here's a mindset shift that works like magic. Seek to understand, not to convince. When you seek to understand, you give people space, and in that space, they're far more likely to meet you halfway. So how do you actually practice this? Pause when triggered. When you feel the heat rising, don't speak. Breathe. Let the emotional wave pass. Lead with curiosity. Ask, what matters to them here? You don't have to agree, but you do have to understand. Choose your silence like a strategy. Sometimes the most powerful response is no response. Not every opinion deserves your rebuttal. Not every fire needs your fuel. Here's another subtle tactic. Agree on values. Even if you disagree on details, say things like, "I think we both care about fairness here," or "I can see that we both want to get to the truth." That instantly changes the mood from me versus you to us versus the problem. Even in disagreements, there's almost always some shared ground. Smart people look for that and use it as their foundation. When you stay calm, composed, and clear, you look like the one in control. The person who doesn't argue isn't weak, they're just playing a smarter game. So here's the truth, most people never learn. The need to argue is often a need to be heard. But ironically, the louder we shout, the less we're understood. If you want to win, not just the moment, but the person, stop trying to defeat them, help them feel understood. Lead them to the insight gently. Make it their idea, and when it's not worth it, walk away. Not every battle is yours to fight. Let your peace be louder than their noise. So the next time you're tempted to argue, remember, you don't need to win the argument. You just need to win the moment. And the moment belongs to the calmest person in the room who knows what he wants, who thinks before he talks and weighs the situation as it unfolds.